Coffee. For millions of people around the world, it's far more than just a beverage. It's a ritual, a small, powerful moment that marks the start of a new day. The rich aroma of roasted beans, the bold bitterness on your tongue, and the surge of energy it brings have woven coffee deeply into the rhythm of modern life. In recent years, science has added its voice to coffee's praise. A growing number of studies show that drinking coffee in moderation may offer remarkable health benefits. It's rich in antioxidants, may help protect the brain from degenerative diseases, and can lower the risk of type 2 diabetes and even certain types of cancer. And maybe, right now, you're sipping a warm cup of coffee, feeling good knowing that you're not just indulging in a beloved habit, but also doing something that supports your health, especially now that you're over 60. But there's a more complicated truth that very few people, even daily coffee drinkers, fully realize. What if I told you that the way you brew, the time you drink, and the things you add to your coffee could be quietly canceling out many of those health benefits, or worse, could actually be harming your body? What if I told you that there are common coffee habits that may be silently spiking your stress hormones, disrupting your deep sleep, pulling calcium from your bones, and triggering acid reflux, symptoms often blamed on something else? The problem isn't the coffee bean itself. In fact, coffee is a gift from nature, complex, powerful, and potentially therapeutic. The real issue lies in how little we understand the way its active compounds, especially caffeine, interact with our bodies, especially as we age. After 60, your liver metabolizes caffeine more slowly. Your nervous system becomes more sensitive to stimulants. Your hormonal balance becomes more fragile. That cup of coffee you could drink without a second thought at 40 might now affect you completely differently. Have you ever felt jittery or anxious after having coffee? Have you experienced bouts of acidity or a strange tightness in your chest? Do you rely on coffee to wake you up, only to feel more fatigued later in the day? The answers to these questions may not lie in the coffee itself, but in how you're drinking it. And that's exactly why this video was created. We're going to dive deep into the science of smart coffee drinking. You'll discover 10 common mistakes many people make, mistakes that can turn this otherwise healthy habit into a hidden health risk. More importantly, you'll learn simple, evidence-based tips for brewing, timing, and enjoying coffee in a way that works with your body, not against it. By the end of this, you'll know how to turn your daily cup of coffee from a potential double-edged sword into a powerful tool for sharpening focus, supporting longevity, and freeing your energy. So stay with me until the end, because this knowledge will help you reclaim your coffee ritual as a source of clarity, wellness, and joy.
Now we begin the heart of this video. Together, we're going to take a closer look at common coffee mistakes, the small everyday habits that might seem harmless but can quietly affect your health in unexpected ways. And we'll start with one of the most widespread mistakes of all, one that happens right at the very first moment of your day. Mistake number 10, drinking coffee immediately after waking up. This is a ritual shared by millions across the world. The alarm goes off, you slowly roll out of bed, and the very first thing you do is head straight for the coffee maker. That hot black cup of strong coffee feels essential, the only thing that can help you truly wake up and get going. For many, this habit is a comforting part of their morning routine, a non-negotiable piece of everyday life. But, physiologically speaking, this is one of the worst times to introduce caffeine into your system, especially if you're over 60. What feels like a gentle nudge on the outside may actually be a jolt to your internal balance. The reason lies in a little hormone called cortisol, commonly known as the stress hormone, but also the body's natural wake-up signal. Cortisol follows a fairly predictable pattern. It begins rising naturally around 3 or 4 a.m. and reaches its peak roughly 30 to 45 minutes after you wake. This morning cortisol surge is an important part of your circadian rhythm. It helps you feel alert, focused, and ready to take on the day without needing external stimulants. Here's the catch. Caffeine also stimulates cortisol production. So when you drink your coffee during this natural cortisol peak, you're adding artificial stimulation on top of your body's own efforts. Instead of working with your body, you're working against it, creating a cortisol spike higher than necessary. For older adults whose hormonal systems are more delicate and reactive, this can lead to several problems. You may begin to notice that you feel jittery, anxious, or even slightly on edge instead of simply awake and alert. Your heart might beat faster and your blood pressure may rise, not ideal for those with cardiovascular concerns. Over time, this habit can build caffeine tolerance. In other words, your body learns to mute the effects of caffeine, so you end up needing more of it just to feel awake, creating a dependency loop that's hard to escape. And let's not forget the metabolic effects. Elevated cortisol can raise blood sugar levels, which is especially risky if you're managing high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes. Fortunately, the solution here is gentle and simple. Wait before that first cup. Giving your body 60 to 90 minutes to settle into its day allows cortisol levels to naturally decline, creating a better window for caffeine to both be effective and safe. That delayed cup of coffee doesn't just taste better, it actually works better, extending your alertness throughout the day without causing a crash or overstimulating your system. Another important habit is to avoid drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Having a light breakfast first, something with a bit of healthy fat or protein, helps slow the absorption of caffeine, soften its effects, and ensures your stomach isn't irritated by acidity. For older adults with sensitive digestion, this one step can make a noticeable difference in how your body responds to that morning ritual. Ultimately, it's not about giving up coffee. It's about aligning it with your body's natural rhythm. By waiting just a little longer and giving your body something nourishing before that first sip, you're transforming coffee from a habit of dependency into something far more powerful, a steady, calm source of clarity and energy to begin your day with presence and purpose.
Mistake number 9. Adding sugar, condensed milk, or flavored syrups to your coffee. The next mistake is a deeply ingrained habit, one that has quietly turned a potentially healthy beverage into a disguised dessert. It's the tendency to sweeten coffee with sugar, condensed milk, creamers, or flavored syrups, often without realizing just how dramatically these additions alter the health profile of your daily cup of coffee. For many people, the natural bitterness of coffee takes some getting used to, and the natural instinct is to fix that bitterness with sweetness. A spoonful of sugar in the morning cup, a splash of condensed milk in a Vietnamese-styled iced coffee, a few pumps of vanilla or caramel syrup at a cafe. These small acts of enhancement seem innocent enough, but collectively, they're transforming your cup of coffee into one of the biggest hidden sources of added sugar in your daily diet. The numbers speak for themselves. A traditional iced coffee with a generous pour of condensed milk can easily contain 20 to 30 grams of sugar. A medium-sized flavored latte from a well-known chain might spike that number to 40 grams, the equivalent of 5 to 10 teaspoons of sugar in just one drink. And this often happens in the morning, right when your body is still trying to stabilize its metabolism for the day ahead. When you drink sweetened coffee first thing in the morning, you're introducing a blood sugar spike that sends your metabolism into overdrive. Glucose levels rise sharply, insulin surges in response, and not long after, your energy plummets, leaving you tired, sluggish, and craving something sweet again. Suddenly, what started as a quick way to wake up becomes a metabolic roller coaster that you ride for the rest of the day. This is even more concerning for those over 60, when insulin sensitivity is lower and the body's ability to recover from sugar-induced stress is diminished. These daily sugar hits don't just weaken pancreatic function, they accelerate the development of insulin resistance and edge the body closer to type 2 diabetes. Inflammation also rises, aggravating joint pain and accelerating damage to blood vessels, all while feeding the slow fire of aging at the cellular level. On top of that, sweetened coffee drinks are often empty calories. They provide no real nutrition, only a fleeting burst of energy, followed by fatigue and long-term consequences. Over time, they contribute to weight gain, especially around the midsection, raising the risk for heart disease, cognitive decline, and metabolic disorders. But the good news is, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to give up on flavor. You just have to choose it consciously. And with a bit of intention, you can retrain your palate to embrace the original depth and complexity of coffee without needing it to be sweet. Start slowly. If you've been used to sweetened coffee for years, don't expect your taste buds to shift overnight. But by gradually reducing how much sugar or condensed milk you add, you'll find that your preferences begin to evolve. In time, the subtle bitterness of coffee becomes something you actually enjoy, even crave. Along the way, you may discover other ways to bring complexity to your cup. A dash of Ceylon cinnamon, known for its ability to help balance blood sugar, a drop of pure vanilla extract, or a pinch of unsweetened cacao powder can elevate your coffee in surprising and sophisticated ways. And if you do prefer milk, consider switching to unsweetened fresh milk or plant-based options like almond or oat milk, choices that retain creaminess without overwhelming your system with sugar. In the end, the real joy of drinking coffee doesn't come from masking its bitterness, but from embracing its natural character. When you stop using sugar as a crutch, you start to experience coffee as adults once did, as a complex, grounded, evolving flavor, rich in nuance and depth. And better yet, you give your body a gift: stability, resilience, and the absence of constant blood sugar chaos.
Mistake 8. Using 3-in-1 instant coffee or flavored coffee capsules. This next mistake is a classic trap of convenience, a little shortcut that promises a perfect cup in under a minute but ends up delivering far more harm than most people realize. When mornings get busy or when you're at the office and need a quick fix, it's easy to reach for a sachet of 3-in-1 instant coffee or pop a flavored coffee capsule into the machine. The convenience is undeniable. Coffee without the mess, pre-blended with sweetness, creaminess, and appealing aromas. But behind the ease and the attractive packaging lies a deeper truth. These products are far from pure coffee. They are at their core highly processed industrial concoctions, engineered blends containing more additives than coffee beans. Take a look at the ingredient list on a pack of 3-in-1 coffee. You'll often find sugar listed first, not coffee. Then comes the notorious non-dairy creamer, a lab-born substitute made from corn syrup solids, partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, a source of trans fats, and emulsifiers. Only at the end of that list will you find the actual coffee, and usually just a small percentage of it. Essentially, a 3-in-1 is a cup of sugary, fat-laden water with a bit of caffeine flavor. And flavored coffee capsules aren't much better. While they may contain actual coffee, their flavoring usually comes from artificial additives, sweeteners like sucralose, and often powdered milk or cream substitutes. Some capsules designed for latte-style drinks even combine dairy powders and sugar directly in the pod. Add to that the concern around plastic or aluminum casings, which, when exposed to high heat and pressure, may release microplastics or chemical residues into your cup. Over time, habitual consumption of these products loads your system with a cocktail of excess sugar, inflammatory fats, synthetic flavors, and preservatives. And while the caffeine gives you a short burst of mental clarity, the cost is steep. Blood sugar spikes, metabolic strain, liver stress, and an ever-deepening dependence on these hyper-processed products. The solution isn't complicated. It simply requires a return to simplicity. Real, whole bean coffee, made with intention and care. A bag of good quality beans, freshly ground just before brewing, becomes not only a source of flavor, but a moment of mindfulness and control. Brewing methods like traditional Vietnamese phin,
French press, or pour-over kits don't require complicated equipment, just patience and a commitment to quality. You also have complete control over what goes into your cup. Choose your own milk, your own enhancements, your own balance. A splash of unsweetened milk, a hint of cinnamon, or a single natural extract offers a sense of grounding that no pre-made blend can replicate. There comes a point where speed no longer justifies compromise. Choosing coffee in its purest form is self-care. It's a ritual, a way of honoring both your body and the flavors that nature, not industry, has to offer. Those extra few minutes to make your own cup, that's not time lost. It's health gained.
Mistake number 7, replacing water with coffee, especially in the morning. This next habit is rooted in a common misunderstanding, one that frames coffee not just as a morning pick-me-up, but as a full-on replacement for water itself. And while the idea might seem harmless, it can quietly lead to a state of chronic dehydration, particularly dangerous in older adults, where every system depends more than ever on adequate hydration. For many people, mornings follow a predictable rhythm. Wake up and, without much thought, reach for a hot cup of coffee. It becomes the first liquid your body receives after 7 or 8 hours of sleep, no water in sight. For years, perhaps you've told yourself, it's fine. After all, coffee is mostly water, right? But here's the biological truth that too often goes overlooked. Coffee is also a diuretic. That means the caffeine it contains encourages your kidneys to produce more urine, which leads your body to expel water a little more rapidly than usual. While one moderate cup may not dramatically dehydrate you, opening the day with coffee alone, especially without restoring your overnight fluid loss, can make a subtle, harmful dent in your hydration levels. When you sleep, your body continues to lose water, through your breath, through sweat, even as you rest. By the time you wake, your cells are literally asking for water. Your blood becomes slightly thicker, your muscles and joints a little more stiff. Your digestive system, brain, and kidneys are all looking for the same thing, pure fluids to gently rehydrate, flush, and restart the systems that serve you every waking hour. And yet what we often give ourselves instead is coffee, stimulating, acidic, and dehydrating. Not only this fails to replenish the fluids we've lost overnight, but it actually nudges the body to release more water, placing additional strain on a system that just spent the night catching up. Over time, repeating this pattern can contribute to low-grade chronic dehydration, the kind that creeps in slowly, without obvious symptoms, but with consequences that accumulate. When your body is mildly dehydrated, it doesn't scream in pain, it fades. Your energy dips, your mental clarity fogs, digestion slows down, and your skin begins to lose its glow. You may notice yourself feeling tired for no reason, unable to focus fully, struggling with dry skin or more frequent headaches. And for older adults, the risks are even greater. Dehydration increases the likelihood of urinary tract infections, kidney stones, and worsened cognitive function. Thankfully, the fix is perhaps the easiest change of all, one that takes no more than a minute and delivers benefits you'll feel almost instantly. Start the day with water. A tall glass, room temperature, or slightly warm, whatever you prefer, should be the first thing you consume upon waking. This simple habit sets the tone for your metabolism, your energy, and your mind. If you can give your body water before caffeine, everything works better. And of course, continue to hydrate throughout the day. Let coffee be what it's meant to be, a joy, a ritual, and a flavorful addition to your routine, not a substitute for the foundation your body truly needs. Remember, coffee energizes, but water sustains.
Mistake number 6, drinking too much coffee in a single day. At the heart of this next mistake is a widespread assumption, the belief that since coffee gives us energy, more must be better. But as with many things in life, balance is everything. What begins as a cup for clarity can quietly grow into an over-reliance that leaves you overstimulated,
depleted, and even at risk. It often starts innocently, a morning cup to wake up, then another mid-morning as energy dips. After lunch, you feel sluggish again, so perhaps a third. Before long, afternoon yawns bring a fourth, maybe even a fifth. And somewhere between productivity and fatigue, the cups continue, not because you love the taste, but because your body has started to depend on the caffeine to stay functional. Drinking a moderate amount of coffee can absolutely be healthy. That's well established. But moderation, not excess, is the deciding factor. At a certain point, the steady drip of caffeine begins to flip. Its stimulating benefits fade and are replaced by shaking hands, racing thoughts, and a heart that beats louder than it should. Most health authorities agree that for an average healthy adult, 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is the upper limit of what's considered safe, roughly 4 regular cups of brewed coffee. But for adults over 60, that number is often too generous. Natural aging slows the liver's ability to metabolize caffeine, and the nervous system grows more sensitive. What once felt like an energizing cup now feels like a crash coming. Too much caffeine can mean anxiety, nervous tension, and increased heart rate. It can mean difficulty falling asleep, even when you haven't had coffee since lunchtime. It can mean higher blood pressure, skipped or fast heartbeats, and a feeling that you never fully relax. What's worse, long-term caffeine overload also affects your bones, increasing the amount of calcium your body loses in urine, a serious concern for older adults at risk of osteoporosis. There's also the creeping issue of tolerance. As your body adjusts to high caffeine intake, you become less responsive to it. You drink more and feel less. And when you even try to cut back, perhaps in a well-intentioned moment, withdrawal hits hard, with headaches, fatigue, and irritability that make you wonder if it's worth it. But this isn't about giving up coffee. It's about reclaiming it. Knowing your personal limits, pausing to reflect on how coffee makes you feel, and scaling back slowly if needed can be transformative. Choosing quality over quantity is often the most rewarding shift. It's better to sip 1 or 2 delicious, thoughtfully brewed cups of coffee you truly enjoy than to mindlessly chug 5 weaker ones just to get through the afternoon. And if you crave the ritual of your coffee break later in the day, that's perfectly fine. But let it be decaf or half-calf option that honors your body's natural rhythm, not one that disrupts it. Coffee is a gift. Its aroma, its ritual, and its power to create moments of mindfulness are unmatched. But even gifts can become burdens if we forget to use them wisely. With a little intention, you can enjoy every cup and savor its benefits without tipping into exhaustion, dependence, or sleepless nights.
Mistake number 5, using bleached coffee filters. This next mistake seems almost invisible, a subtle detail in the coffee routine that most of us make without a second thought. It happens quietly during grocery shopping, when we instinctively reach for coffee filters that appear clean, neat, and pure, the bright white ones. But that choice, as reassuring as it may look visually, might be unknowingly introducing unwanted chemicals into your daily coffee cup. When you look at the shelf, you'll typically see 2 types of paper filters, natural brown and crisp bleached white. The white filters naturally tend to attract more attention. They look cleaner, more refined. But here's the thing. Paper isn't naturally white. Unprocessed paper, made from wood pulp, has a light brown, earthy color. To transform it into that perfect white, manufacturers must chemically bleach it. Years ago, many manufacturers used elemental chlorine gas for this process, which can produce a group of toxic byproducts known as dioxins. These compounds are dangerous, even in minute amounts. They're persistent in the environment, accumulate in body fat, and have been linked to cancer, hormonal disruption, and weakened immunity. While modern manufacturing has moved towards safer whitening processes, not all filters are created equally, and full transparency isn't always visible on the packaging, especially with cheaper off-brand products. Today, many filters use methods like ECF, elemental chlorine-free, or TCF,
totally chlorine-free bleaching methods. ECF is better. It replaces chlorine gas with chlorine dioxide, which still produces fewer toxins, but not none. TCF, on the other hand, avoids chlorine altogether, using oxidative compounds like hydrogen peroxide or ozone, making it the cleanest, safest method available. Though the risk is low, daily exposure over time may not be worth it, particularly when a safer solution is simple, affordable, and easy to adopt. The better choice? Go natural. Choose unbleached filters, which retain their soft brown color, not because they're dirty or impure, but because they haven't been touched by chemical bleaching agents. In doing so, you reduce your body's exposure to undesirable residues. You protect the integrity of your coffee, preserving its flavor in the purest way possible. And as a bonus, you make the more environmentally responsible choice. These filters require less processing and fewer pollutants to be produced. Sometimes the better decisions aren't the ones that look cleaner on the surface. They are the ones that align with clarity, authenticity, and a deeper respect for what goes into the body each day. Switching to natural paper filters won't change the taste of your coffee, but it may bring peace of mind that every cup is truly as clean as it looks.
Mistake number 4. Drinking coffee while it's still too hot. A hidden burn to your esophagus. There's something comforting, almost instinctive, about that first sip of steaming hot coffee. The way it warms your hands, cuts through sleepiness, and spreads heat through your body, especially on a cold morning, feels like ritual, like reassurance. Many of us pour boiling water over grounds, brew our coffee just moments before drinking, and enjoy it while it's still piping hot. But in this daily routine lies a hidden danger, one that could quietly cause long-term damage, particularly to older adults. The inner lining of your throat and esophagus is formed by delicate, sensitive tissues. They're not built to handle high temperatures. They are meant to carry food and drink, yes, but at safe, tolerable warmth. When we drink coffee at temperatures above 65 degrees Celsius or 149 degrees Fahrenheit on a regular basis, as many people do, we effectively subject that lining to daily thermal stress. Over time, this ongoing irritation leads not just to discomfort, but to chronic inflammation, the kind that forces cellular regeneration again and again, creating more room for DNA damage and mutations. While this may sound theoretical, science has already spoken. In 2016, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, part of the World Health Organization, reviewed decades of research and concluded that consuming very hot beverages, specifically above 65 degrees Celsius, likely increases the risk of esophageal cancer. The danger isn't in coffee or tea themselves, it's the temperature. In fact, populations where very hot drinks are a tradition, such as parts of Iran, show up to 8 times the risk of developing esophageal cancer compared to those who drink the same beverages at lower temperatures. And as we age, we become even more vulnerable. The body's ability to repair tissue damage slows down. Mucosal linings thin and become more fragile. So while the warmth of a morning brew may feel therapeutic on the surface, it could be quietly compromising the very systems it's meant to uplift. But the antidote is simple: patience. Letting your coffee cool for a few minutes, even just 3 to 5 minutes, can make all the difference. If your hands still find the mug too hot to hold comfortably, the inside of your throat surely finds it too hot to handle. Adding a bit of cold milk, a splash of cool water, or simply taking small sips and waiting, these are habits that signal not weakness, but care, a willingness to listen to the body before racing to satisfy the senses. There's even another reason to let your coffee cool. When coffee cools just slightly, down to about 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, its flavor opens up. The sharp edge of bitterness softens. The aroma becomes more expressive. Hidden notes like florals, chocolate, fruit, or toast emerge more clearly. Ultimately, your patience doesn't just protect your health, it rewards your palate too. So let coffee be warm, soothing, not scalding. Let your mornings embrace ceremony over urgency. And remember, the most nourishing rituals are rarely rushed. They're chosen with intention, practiced with respect, and repeated with joy.
Mistake number 3, using coffee as a replacement for sleep. This next mistake is partly psychological, partly physiological, and it's one that many people make, especially in a modern world that praises productivity over rest. It's the habit of relying on coffee to make up for a lack of quality sleep. Coffee becomes our secret weapon, our pick-me-up, when what we really need is rest. Picture this. You've had a rough night, maybe tossing, turning, or only managing 5 or 6 hours of sleep. You wake up groggy, unfocused, heavy-headed. Your instinct is brew a stronger cup of coffee than usual, or perhaps drink more than you normally would. Caffeine, after all, promises clarity, and in that moment, it delivers. You feel more alert, more functional, at least for a while. But behind that temporary lift, something important is happening. You're borrowing energy, not creating it. Caffeine works by blocking the adenosine receptors in your brain, the same receptors that signal fatigue. It masks your sleepiness, but does nothing to resolve it. You feel awake, but your body is still running on low. And therein lies the danger. The more frequently this pattern is repeated, bad sleep followed by more coffee, the deeper you fall into a self-reinforcing loop. You sleep poorly, so you rely on more caffeine the next day. But that extra caffeine, especially if consumed throughout the afternoon, remains in your system much longer than you think. It interferes with your ability to fall asleep that night. The sleep that follows is light, fragmented, and far from restorative. And so the cycle begins again, more relentless than before. This isn't just about feeling tired. For older adults, the consequences of chronic sleep deprivation are serious. Immune function suffers. The risk of heart disease increases, as does blood pressure. Glucose regulation becomes more fragile, heightening the risk of type 2 diabetes. And perhaps most concerning of all, your brain pays the price. Deep sleep is when your brain performs its cleaning, removing toxic proteins like beta amyloid, which are linked to Alzheimer's. Without adequate sleep, that cleansing process is disrupted, and cognitive decline becomes a real risk over time. The only real solution lies in a shift of perspective. Sleep isn't a luxury to be replaced with coffee. It's the foundation your well-being rests on. Coffee can offer support, even pleasure, but it should never be used to paper over fatigue. If you have a poor night's sleep, accept the fatigue as a signal, not a problem to be suppressed. Let your body rest, take it slower, and if needed, allow yourself a short nap rather than an extra shot of espresso. Learn to drink less coffee on those days, not more, and never in the afternoon, when cortisol and caffeine can team up to sabotage your next night's rest. The body is always speaking. Fatigue is just its way of saying, I need a break. Respect that, and you'll discover a more stable, sustainable kind of energy, one that doesn't come from a cup, but from within.
Mistake number 2, drinking coffee to suppress hunger or skip breakfast. This next mistake is commonly seen in those who are constantly on the go or those trying to eat less in the name of weight loss. It's the decision to use coffee, particularly black coffee, as a meal replacement, especially for breakfast. At first glance, the logic isn't entirely unsound. Caffeine can suppress appetite temporarily. A cup of black coffee in the morning has no calories, makes you feel awake, and blunts the feeling of hunger, effectively allowing you to delay or skip your first meal, or in some cases, avoid it entirely. For those following intermittent fasting or calorie-restrictive diets, this might even feel like a clever trick. But if you're over 60, this is not a harmless trick. It's a shortcut that comes with real and lasting consequences. You're asking your body to perform without fuel while increasing its stress load. And the cost is paid in muscle, metabolism, and long-term resilience. Let's return to something we've touched on before: cortisol.
When you wake up, your cortisol levels naturally rise to help your body begin the day. It's designed to help you mobilize energy. But when you trigger that same system with caffeine without fueling your body first, you create an artificial stress response. Your body thinks it's in survival mode. So where does it get energy? From within itself. Specifically, it breaks down stored glycogen in the liver, and shortly after, it begins to break down muscle tissue. This is known as muscle catabolism, the breakdown of precious lean mass, and it's the exact opposite of what older adults want or need. So what that means is when you drink coffee instead of eating a real breakfast, you push your body into using your muscles as emergency fuel. You might end up losing weight on the scale, but much of that loss won't be fat. It will be muscle. And as muscle declines, so does your metabolism, your strength, and your ability to maintain healthy insulin function. Skipping protein in the morning also means missing the window when your body is most ready to build and preserve muscle, a crucial factor in aging well. Sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle as we age, is a reality. And the more we accelerate it, the harder it becomes to maintain strength, mobility, and independence. Beyond the muscular impact, coffee on an empty stomach may also irritate the gut. The acids in coffee stimulate the stomach's own acid production. Without the buffering effect of food, this can lead to heartburn, bloating, and eventually even inflamed gastric tissues over time, something that only worsens with age. So what's the better habit? It begins with a mindset shift. Coffee is not a meal. It has no nutrients of its own. It gives you energy by stimulating stress hormones, not by nourishing your body. Instead of drinking coffee to avoid hunger, nourish yourself first. Give your body something to wake up to. It doesn't have to be elaborate. A couple of hard-boiled eggs, a small bowl of oats with seeds, or yogurt with fruit can all lay a proper foundation. Then enjoy your coffee after your meal. Your body will digest it better, your stomach will be protected, and your energy will last longer. When we treat caffeine as a bonus, not a crutch, everything changes. You stop asking your body to survive on adrenaline and start allowing it to thrive on nourishment. And the reward for that simple change is profound. Better mood, better focus, stronger muscles, and a body that ages with more resilience and less regret.
Mistake number 1. Using low-quality instant coffee or pre-ground coffee left sitting for too long. This final mistake is arguably the most common and the most overlooked. It's the one that can quietly turn a health-promoting beverage, rich in antioxidants, into a pro-inflammatory, low-quality brew that does more harm than good. It's the habit of using low-grade coffee, especially budget instant brands or pre-ground coffee that has sat around for far too long. Many people operate under the assumption that coffee is coffee. They don't see a big difference between a scoop of instant granules, a bag of supermarket ground coffee, and fragrant whole beans ground moments before brewing. But chemically, nutritionally, and experientially, these forms of coffee are worlds apart. Let's begin with instant coffee. To make it, beans are roasted at extremely high temperatures, then brewed in massive batches, dehydrated through spray drying or freeze drying, and finally turned into granules that dissolve rapidly in hot water. This industrial process strips away much of the natural flavor compounds, along with the oils that give coffee its complexity and health benefits. What's left is a shadow of what coffee is supposed to be. Convenient but stripped and compromised. But here's where things get even more concerning. Lower-cost instant coffees often rely on inferior Robusta beans, which are bitter and less nuanced than Arabica, and are frequently sourced from beans that are broken, defective, or poorly stored. These low-grade beans are prone to mold contamination, especially in humid environments. One of the most dangerous byproducts of this contamination is octatoxin A, a mycotoxin that harms kidney function, weakens immunity, and has been linked to cancer. Regulatory agencies monitor octatoxin levels, but small, consistent exposure from poor quality coffee remains a low-level risk that builds over time.
Now, let's talk about the risks of ground coffee that's been sitting too long. Grinding coffee massively increases surface area, exposing delicate oils and aromatic compounds to oxygen. Oxidation begins within minutes. Within 15 minutes of grinding, coffee begins to lose its vibrant flavor. And after a few days or weeks on a pantry shelf, the oils go rancid. Those same fats, which are antioxidant-rich when fresh, now become oxidized, turning into free radicals that promote inflammation, the exact opposite of what you want from your morning cup. So drinking stale, oxidized coffee is like eating oxidized nuts or old cooking oil. The bitter, flat taste isn't just unpleasant, it's a signal of chemical degradation. And if you've been brewing from the same open bag of ground coffee for weeks or months, you're pouring more than caffeine into your cup. You're drinking a product drained of vitality, potentially loaded with inflammatory compounds and far removed from the original healing potential of real coffee. So what's the solution? It's simple, elegant, and deeply satisfying. Buy whole beans, grind them fresh, brew with intention. The difference in taste is almost immediate. The benefits to your health, even more so. High-quality Arabica beans, especially those with clear origin and moderate roast levels, retain more of their antioxidant capacity. Grinding just before brewing takes 30 seconds, yet preserves the oils and aroma that make coffee such a joy and such a gift. When you store those whole beans in a sealed container, away from heat, light, and air, you're preserving not just flavor, but function, the functional medicine of the everyday cup.
So here we are, at the end of what has hopefully been a rewarding journey through the hidden layers of your daily cup of coffee. We've explored how timing matters, how sugar transforms coffee into dessert, how convenience sacrifices quality, and how coffee should never replace real sleep or proper nourishment. We've unpacked how grinding, sourcing, and even the temperature of what you drink determines whether your morning brew becomes a healing ritual or a silent stressor. But this entire conversation isn't really about avoiding mistakes, it's about regaining control. Because the truth is, you hold the power to transform your coffee routine into one of the most health-supportive, soul-nourishing parts of your day. That power comes from awareness. You're no longer drinking coffee just to get through the day. Now you know how to work with your body's natural rhythms, respecting its signals rather than overriding them. You've discovered that the right being, the right timing, and the right preparation can transform coffee from common habit into intentional self-care. And this power also lies in the smallest choices, waiting 60 minutes after waking before your first cup, choosing cinnamon instead of sugar, grinding your beans fresh each morning. These aren't massive lifestyle overhauls, they are simple, meaningful rituals, and when repeated consistently, they become the building blocks of long-term well-being. So now I'd love to hear from you. Before watching this video, what was the #1 coffee mistake you were making, perhaps without even realizing? And now that you know what you know, which new habit or tip are you excited to try tomorrow morning? Share your thoughts, your personal coffee discoveries in the comments below. Every story is a gift. Your reflections might inspire someone else to take their first step toward a healthier, more intentional relationship with coffee. And if this video helped open your eyes, if it gave you a fresh perspective on something as simple and as sacred as a daily cup of coffee, please give it a like to support the message. Share it with the fellow coffee lovers in your life. And don't forget to subscribe so we can continue this journey together, a journey into simple, science-backed habits that foster clarity, calm, and longevity. Thank you for watching, and never forget, a simple cup of coffee can become one of the most powerful allies in your lifelong pursuit of vibrant health, as long as you treat it not just as a habit, but as a healing ritual, approached with knowledge, respect, and just a little bit of patience.